There's some pretty obvious sewing lies that we tell ourselves sometimes, like one more seam and I'll go to bed, or I don't need to measure again for this project, I'm fine, or nah, the bobbin's plenty full, I'll be fine for the rest of this part of the project, or I don't need the directions, I think I got it. Or how about one of my personal favorites, I could never sew pants. And that's something that I told myself for a very, very long time. But it's a lie, and I found that out firsthand. So maybe some of those sewing lies sound familiar to you. Maybe you have your own sewing lies that you tell yourself all the time. I'd love to see those in the comments, so please tell me about some of your sewing lies, whether they're funny or a little bit more, hit close to home. Let me know some of your sewing lies. And most of these lies are definitely harmless, but I wanted to take a closer look at that last one about sewing pants, because I think that it can kind of harm us a little bit, and I wanted to kind of poke some holes in that today with our feature pattern, Duet Trousers. I think that I can't sew pants lie holds us back almost more than any of those other lies. And it's because this is the truth. You can. If you can sew a line, you can sew pants. I want to just take some time today to give you some reasons why you can sew pants, and specifically the Duet trousers, because there is so much support available for these. They are a wonderful, versatile pattern that can fit in anybody's wardrobe. So that's one thing that you wouldn't have to worry about. They work with so many kinds of fabric, both woven and knits. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about. They come with a fitting workbook, which helps you diagnose fit issues and make adjustments as needed in a really clear, easy way, which is free inside of the pattern. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about. And this pattern has a sewing course with it so that you can see step by step all of those process pieces put together, seen visually on demand on your own schedule. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about. It's a great versatile pattern. It has fitting help with it. It works with tons of different fabric, and there are construction and sewing step-by-step tutorials that walk you through the whole thing. So that I can't sew pants thing is absolutely a lie. And if you don't believe it, I wanted to give you a preview today of what that sewing course looks like so that you can have the confidence to sew your own pants. And you can't tell that lie to yourself anymore that I could never sew pants. Before we get too far into that sneak preview of what the course looks like, I wanted to just kind of set the stage about what this pattern is. The Duet trousers are a very easy to sew pocketed trouser pant pattern. They come in sizes 0 to 32. They include that fitting workbook that we talked about just a minute ago. And they also are versatile because they work with both stable knits of a medium weight as well as light to medium weight woven fabrics like suiting or wool blends, or I've seen them made in like a stretch woven. All of those fabrics work really well for this pattern. The pattern comes with a straight leg option or a tapered leg option. It also has two different waistband styles to choose from. If you're sewing in woven, there's an invisible zipper on the side. And if you're sewing with knit, you can choose to use a yoga waistband that's very comfortable to make them pull on pants. The pattern includes really nice sleek pockets that are embedded in the front in such a seamless, sleek way. The pattern also has some really lovely back darts. So the fitting in and around the hip and waist area is really able to be catered to your personal preferences. And they're just like that sleek trouser that you can wear to work, that you can wear out for casual nights out. We always need pants, and these are the ones that can kind of go anywhere and do anything. And once you nail the construction, nail the fit of these pants, you are going to be sewing them up over and over and over again. And today only, they are our feature pattern so that you can get them for a very special price, and you can also get them free inside of our sewing. So let's peek inside of that course. All of the courses at Love Notions, I think we have about 6 or 7 right now. They are housed on the Love Notions website under your account. So you will have unlimited, infinite access to these courses. There's no expiration dates for any of them. You don't have to watch them by a certain time. They will always be available to you. And what you'll do is enroll into a course, access to a bunch of different modules that allow you to work through the pattern at your own pace. It covers things the start to the very, very, very end of this pattern sewing process. And Tammy walks you through with really great guidance, lots of tips and advice and information about technique, and you get to see things being sewn in really great visual, so that some people tend to be a little bit more visual and need to see these pieces being folded and how things layer up and all of that sort of thing. And Tammy does a really good job of walking you through each and every one of those steps from start to finish. And so today, let's just take a quick little preview of one of the earlier construction steps, and that is of sewing the darts and sewing the crotch curve, so that you can kind of just see what this looks like. And if this looks like something that would be appealing to you, that you would want to have these further steps for sewing the waistband or constructing the pockets, places that are kind of trickier for people, make sure that you take a look at the full course, and it might be a great idea to invest in that today. So let's go take a look.
Lesson 5, we're ready to sew. In this lesson, we're going to cover steps 1 through 3, sewing the darts and sewing those center front and back seams. So the first step in sewing our duet trousers is we want to transfer our dart markings on the back piece to the actual pattern pieces. There's a couple different ways you can do this. I'm going to show you the way I prefer to do it, and that is using Clover's tracing paper. It comes in several different colors, and it's just like chalk transfer paper that you use a tracing wheel with to transfer your markings. So I have already got my pieces cut out, and I've sandwiched this tracing paper so it's in between both pieces. So the tracing paper is folded, so it's going to trace from this side and this side to each back piece. I'm going to lay it right over the dart area, like so. Make sure they line up really nicely. Then I'm going to take my pattern piece, lay it on top, and then I'm going to take a straight edge, and I'm going to connect this T marking to this circle crosshatch on each side to get that marking, that dart, to the wrong side of our fabric. So this is just kind of puncture the pattern piece, and it should transfer that chalk to the back of the pants back. So my dart working is now transferred, and I'm ready to sew that up. Another way to transfer your marking is just to use like a fabric marker and draw your lines on the back, like the points, the T markings, and just use a ruler and connect them with an erasable marker. That is ready to go. So now to sew the darts, we're going to take our piece, right sides together, fold it together, so the markings that we just made are like in half. You can see where I'm going to stop here. I'm going to put a pin down here at this marking, the end of the dart, right there, so I have a better visual. So I'm going to straight stitch from the beginning of our marking down to the pin marking, and as I get down to this pin, I'm going to make sure it's like going off of the fabric, because if you stop and it's not off the fabric, you'll get kind of a pucker right there at the bottom of the dart, and we don't want that. So I'm going to do that on both pieces. So I'm going to fold it right sides together so that the peak of our dart is in the middle, right? And the end of our dart point is on the fold, like so. I'm going to take a pin and put a pin at the bottom of that dart marking so I know where I need to be sure I'm off the fabric. And then just to keep things together, I'm going to take a clip and just clip the top together. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to straight stitch from here all the way to the end, being sure when I come to the end of the dart marking that I'm going to be off the fabric. Got my piece ready to go. I'm going to start up here. You can kind of see the yellow chalk marking. I'm going to follow my chalk marking all the way down to the pen, being sure I'm off the fabric by the time I get to this pen. So you can see I ended up off of the fabric by the time I got to this pen. So as I get closer to the pen, I'm gonna make sure I'm getting closer to going off the fabric. So by the time I'm down here, I'm completely off. So you're gonna have tails here at the end of your dart. You should tie those in a knot so your dart doesn't come unraveled. So our darts are sewn, and now we're going to press the dart bulk away from the center. So here's the center. We're going to press it to the side, on each side. All right, so now we've got our dart sewn, and we don't have a pucker at the end of our dart points. If you have a pucker, unpick your stitching and try again so when you end your stitching, you're off of the fabric. So step 3, we're going to sew our center fronts and our center backs. So I have laid my pieces right sides together, my fronts and my backs, and I'm just going to clip them in place, and then I'm taking them to my serger, and I'm going to serge those seams. You can absolutely use a sewing machine. Just to note that this pattern does use a 5/8 seam allowance, just to give you plenty of room to make adjustments on the actual pair you're wearing. Sometimes when you use a smaller seam allowance, like 3/8, there's really not a lot of wiggle room, and you just have to keep going through more and more fabric. Whereas if you use a larger seam allowance, you can absolutely keep making adjustments on that pair because you've got that seam allowance to take from. So if this is the first version you have sewn and you're not sure about any adjustments you may need to do, I do recommend using a sewing machine straight stitch to sew these seams. If you're confident on the size you've picked and you don't think you need any adjustments, then you can go ahead and use a serger, because the serger will cut away that excess seam allowance that we have built in. Now that you've got your darts and center front and back seams sewn, we're ready to move on to the next lesson.
So did you see how approachable that was? Anybody could sew pants if they have got step-by-step demonstrations right in front of them for each and every part of the process. Anybody can sew pants, and so now I think we're proving that I can't sew pants thing that we tell ourselves, that's a lie. So remember, the next time that you say I can't sew pants, you absolutely can. And of course, this week is the perfect time to try. Get the Duet Trousers on Feature Friday sale. Make sure that you grab them as a part of the course, and you will get them for free. Get the pattern, the workbook, and unlimited access to the on-demand sewing course. And that's gonna make pants sewing not just possible, but fun. So don't let any more of those sewing lies hold you back. Confront your fears, use your resources, and get sewing. Happy Friday.